morning, I'm Andrew Kenny from Denbighshire Gardening Services. I'm here to talk to you a little bit about chainsaw safety and some of the things you can do to prevent yourself potentially getting injured during what is a very potentially dangerous activity. Okay, to start with, some of the safety gear that we've got. I'll just show you first. Here we have chainsaw gloves. Alright, they're relatively cheap. They've got like a cowhide leather on the inside, and on the knuckle area on the outside, particularly on the left hand, we have Kevlar on the inside of it, and this prevents injuries when you put your hand behind the chain brake. Kevlar, used by the British military in their protective equipment, is the best material you can get. These are only pretty cheap; they're only about £12 a pair. And if you consider that 70% of chainsaw injuries to the user are either on the hands or legs, you have to have these. These are the first things you must get. £12 all over eBay and such. Second thing, again, these are very cheap. These are the ones I use for my general gardening. Dickies boots. They're a kind of lightweight trainer boot, but they have a steel toe cap in it, and the steel toe cap is imperative again if you're going to use a chainsaw. So again, eBay, on the website, £20 these are, that's all. So far, we've only spent £35 maximum. Next thing, again, a vital piece of equipment is the helmet. These again have come drastically down in price over the years. What we have here is a standard hard hat helmet. Okay, this will prevent scars to your head from a chainsaw kickback. What it won't prevent is if you're working with trees, is obviously if a tree branch fell on your head from height. Rest assured, tree branches are extremely heavy. They won't just injure you, they will kill you. That's why they call them widow makers, and that's when you need to call a professional tree surgeon in. However, vital piece of equipment, the hard hat, the mesh front that I use here. The reason I use a mesh front, I don't alone use the mesh front, but if I used a clear front, there's an awful lot of times when you steam it up. So what I do generally do is wear a pair of safety goggles beneath the mesh visor. This stops all the sort of dust and muck going through your nose and such like, and sawdust that comes off when you operate the chainsaw. The third component of the helmet combination is, of course, and this is possibly behind the gloves the second most important thing you should have when you have chainsaw use, and that is the ear defenders. Okay, people in the back in the old days when the first chainsaws came out in the sort of 1950s, they never used to wear ear defenders. It wasn't even an issue. Tinnitus and such like prevalent injuries and illnesses. If you use a chainsaw all day and you don't use ear defenders, rest assured when you put your head on that pillow at night time, you will hear a ringing in your ear and it won't go away. You won't be able to get to sleep and you'll get very crotchety. These are peanuts. Buy them, wear them, use them. Make sure they've got the European Safety Standard stuff on them as well. Again, we're talking £15 to £25. The final bit of sort of mandated equipment I would recommend is the chainsaw trouser. Again, as I said earlier, 70+% of injuries domestically and professionally are caused to the chainsaw user on the hands, the upper arm, the lower arm, and the lower limbs. These are obviously negated by, again, chainsaw trousers. These are a standard issue chainsaw trousers. I bought these recently. They get scarred if you get kickbacks and such like, but they won't go through your leg. And that's the simple thing. When a chainsaw makes a cut, it doesn't make a clean cut. It makes a very, very jagged, dangerous cut. Okay, that's very difficult to stem the flow of blood if you have that kind of injury to your leg. If you're wearing a chainsaw trouser, which are heavily padded, people think that you're going to have chainmail in these. There's no chainmail in these, but there is a protective material in these, a thickened material. Sometimes difficult to wear in summer because it gets warm, but I'd rather be a bit warm than a bit injured. So these are the chainsaw trousers, all the way down. At the back you see the back of the trouser is higher than the front. These trousers are meant to be worn actually above the waist level, sort of into the midriff area, and you can couple the backs of these, where the buttons are, to a chainsaw, brace, rock-on Tommy, etc., etc. So there's the chainsaw trousers that I wear. Again, these are around about £50 for a pair of chainsaw trousers. So if we add up what we've actually spent so far, we've had the £50 chainsaw trousers, £20 for the helmet, £70, £20 for the boots, and about £15 for the gloves. So I'm talking, my maths, I think it's about £105. So anything under £150 for your own safety, I think is absolutely essential. You'll notice I haven't even mentioned the chainsaw yet, and the reason is because it's such a piece of equipment that requires the safety brief that I've gone through the kit first. It's very easy to get a chainsaw, get it out and go, hey, we're all men, women, we all want to get going and crack on with it. The fact of the matter is, you have to respect this piece of equipment more than any other piece of equipment in the arborist's armoury. Anybody will tell you this, who's used a chainsaw at length, and such like that is why I've done it. The other final thing I failed to mention is this. Okay, that's going to save your life potentially if you have an injury. All right, that's an emergency bandage. It's compressed, so obviously it's easy to carry, lightweight, very easily accessible online. Again, £5 tops. That is a bandage that could save your life against a very jagged injury against your body. The only other piece of equipment I would suggest that you may buy, if you use a chainsaw more often, or you use a wider chainsaw of above sort of 16-inch bar or more, I would suggest that you get a jacket as well. Having said that, people that use those kind of chainsaws are going to be on the professional end. They don't need my advice on what to wear. But I would recommend if you do buy a 16-inch or above chainsaw, you're going to use medium to large tree cutting, then you do buy a chainsaw jacket again. Talking about £80 to £150 for those. They are worth the investment if you're going to use a chainsaw regularly. So that's really all the safety equipment covered. Okay. Now I want to talk to you a little bit about the chainsaw, the developments it's made over the last 50, 60 years or so. Okay. What we have here is a professional level chainsaw. This is a 14-inch bar on this, and as you can see here, the chain on top of the bar is very tense, and so it should be. It should just be able to lift off. It shouldn't be in a situation where it's all and it comes loose, because obviously the chain, when it rotates round in that direction, will obviously be have play on it and therefore cause you potential injury. All right. The chain needs to be obviously oiled, and you do that by filling up the chain reservoir here with chain oil. Okay, these are all easy buy purchases, £5 bottle. Okay, make sure it stays topped up. So every time you're using it, it should be full up. That ensures that the oil gets flicked out around the chain, remains supple at all times. The last thing you need is a dry chain, because then you will have problems. Heat and such that will come into play. That's why we have oil. It maintains the temperature of the bar, the temperature of the chain. And just like having a car, the engine is cooled by oil. The other thing you have here in this reservoir here is your fuel. All right, American Sport gasoline. You'll have either you'll have your unleaded petrol mixed with two-stroke oil. This is obviously a two-stroke machine, and like most of the machines behind me, they are two-stroke machines. Now they have a blend of petrol, unleaded petrol, to oil, and the oil is a particular two-stroke oil. Usually anything between 25:1 ratio petrol to oil to 50:1 ratio. That needs to be checked. Your manual will say exactly what your ratio should be, and you should blend it appropriately. What you need to ensure when you get your chainsaw is before you even touch the material on chainsaw, you read the manual. This is not easy home assembly DIY where we do that man thing of going straight for the toolbox. You must here read the manual. Don't even think about assembling the chainsaw until you've read the manual. There's some very, very important safety issues on there that you must understand. So there we go, that's the oil and such like, that's the basics of the chain. The only other thing I want to mention on the chainsaw here is the development over the years that's happened, is this thing here, this wobbly thing. As you hold the chainsaw, a right-handed user will hold his left hand there, his right hand on the brick behind, as you can see, just move my arm there. But this thing, called the chain brake, ensures protection for the left hand and forearm if in the event of the chain stopping or kicking back. I'll talk about kick back in another demonstration. What happens with the chain brake is if you get a kickback, the chainsaw, because the chain is going in this direction, all the energy from this machine, this very powerful machine, pushing this chainsaw over 60 miles an hour, will push the chain in this direction. As soon as a kickback occurs, what happens is the chain will stop, but the energy is still being pushed forward. Now, I'm no physicist, but I do know that if there's an action, then there has to be a reaction. Now, the action of energy is getting pushed out, and the chain won't move forward. There's only one way the chain is going to go, and that's back. So it kicks back. Now, what happens with the chain brake is the chain saw will come up in this direction, and what would normally happen in the old days, there'd be no chain brake, and the chain would go right on into your head, and potentially kill you. What the chain brake does, if it's held correctly, is stop the chainsaw getting further than around about 11 o'clock, as you can see there. So, provided your head is in the correct direction when you're actually operating the chainsaw, then you'll be always safe, i.e. ensure that the line of your chainsaw is not the line of your head. You should be to the side of that chainsaw line, always. That will ensure that you remain safe. And if the chainsaw does kick back, and for whatever reason you don't hold the chainsaw correctly or such like, and the chainsaw goes over the 11 o'clock position, it will go over your shoulder rather than slice a nice little melon piece on your head. Okay, so that's the basics of chainsaw safety. The next lesson I'll talk about the operation of the chainsaw, kickback and such like, how to cut through pieces of wood and to use small and medium tree felling. Thanks very much for your time. I've been Andy Kenny from Denbighshire Gardening Services. Hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you.